In autumn 1944, the official celebrations were still ongoing, and the mood in the political establishment in Moscow was jubilant when the reports began arriving. The aggressive neo-colonial foreign policy of the Entente, the other global superpower, had seen Canada taking control over Yucatan, the USA invading Mexico, and Venezuela being occupied and divided. The Entente's hunger for resources knew no bounds, and Portuguese invaders clashed with Russian expeditionary troops in Zambezia. The liberal president of Congo, Paul Mfumu, urgently asked for assistance, as Entente troops had been seen flooding the Portuguese-controlled border areas, and Congo did not have the means to defend itself. The Kremlin responded and officially guaranteed the independence of Congo. In return, Portugal issued a diplomatic note that they considered Central Africa their legitimate property by historic right, and any interference would be met with a full military response of the alliance. Thus, Russia, after a brief period of exuberant peace and hope, now finds itself at the precipice of a third world war. Men, recently demobilized, would once again be called up, material, recently mothballed, be brought back into active use, and the military planners would convene to discuss how this war would be fought, as it would require a very different Russian armed force for a transatlantic scenario. We're looking indeed at an aggressively expanding Entente, which is taking over Central America, is already having a foothold in South America, and is looking to take over all of Central and Northwestern Africa as well, except of course for the states that are members of the Moscow Accord, although even that is not guaranteed. But Congo finds itself at the front lines and has asked for urgent assistance. Now, Congo itself, while guaranteed by Russia, is not particularly well armed at this point. So we might see if we can. We can't send any material support because they would have to be at war to do that. So we can't do it preemptively. And that unfortunately means we are going to potentially have to send some troops over to Congo. So I think this episode is going to be a bit of a reorganization, mostly. We still got some troops tied down in China, and with the threat looming of Portugal effectively declaring war on us, which will then escalate into a full-blown conflict between the two world superpowers, the Moscow Accord and the Entente, is going to lead to a reorientation of things. So we may have to, once again, after the initial successes that we've made here, leave China, because we will need currently all the troops we have, because we have mostly demobilized. We have, let's see what we have actually. We have Casagrandi's Second Army, which is currently stationed north of Moscow. These are experienced guards divisions. We have Pepelaev's Third Army, which is currently actually en route to East Asia. And we've got Drozdovsky's Eighth Army, which is positioned at Finland, just to secure the borders, which is a relatively small force. We've got Vasilevsky's Sixth Army, and he'll probably have to be replaced immediately with Shatilov, because he is the... was it Shatilov? Hang on. Let me... because he is not an experienced tank commander, so I think he's just been standing in. No, it wasn't Shatilov, it was Stefan, yeah, sorry. He will have to be replaced with General Stefan, retaking control over the Sixth Army. But we're also going to need, if we are fighting the Entente, we will be fighting in Europe as well. So we will be fighting a war, both inside Europe with allies that are by themselves very, very small. Most of these do not have any armed forces to talk about. So most of the European regions are completely demilitarized, which means we are going to need to defend we are going to need to be defending the French border. both in the south and in the north. We are going to have to, and we're going to have to deal with potentially incursions, like naval invasions along, I would argue. So it will be a battle for the Mediterranean. We'd have to deal with potential naval incursions into Italy and into all the way up into the Balkans. And in North Africa. So North Africa is potentially an Indian-Persian problem, but then again, we also have liberated these states, and none of these states has much of an army to speak of. So none of these states are really capable of defending themselves. So it'll fall primarily until up to Russia. I think Persia and India are probably the only ones who still have a significant, India especially has a significant number of troops. In fact, the Indian army is almost twice as large as ours at this stage. So the Indian Federation is going to be a major contributor to this affair, and will hopefully together with Persia, reinforce the African section, such that at least we don't have to defend that, but we will have to have some troops that can operate in extremely low supply areas on the Portugal-Congo border, and be true to our promise here to assist with defending this. So we might have to design some special forces that are capable of operating in this area with relative ease and speed. We have to modernize the army because we've only got a few mechanized forces. We still have we still have Kappel's 12th, and we've still got some paratroopers, and obviously over in the East Asian side, where currently most of the friendly troops are arrayed along the Fengtian border to put some pressure on Japan, is where we have a sort of significant force still at this point. We've got some marine divisions. And that's round about it, really. We've got the Ungarn Sternberg's Mountaineers currently stationed in Nigeria, but they are, while capable, their supply use isn't terrible. So, but I think the terrain is not necessarily what we are. Yeah, this is all forests and jungle. So we might have to get some form of specialized divisions in there that have sufficient firepower and low enough supply use, and fight relatively well in the forested areas, mixed in maybe with a few mountain divisions once we actually have to fight in the more mountainous areas. All of these need to be created. So we are going to have to take over the European front. Hopefully India and Persia can assist in Africa, but we're going to need some special forces there as well. And we are going to have to bring the fleet, the modern fleet that's currently been raised in the Pacific for a potential conflict with Japan. We might have to bring that fleet over into the Mediterranean in order to counter any Entente attacks here, because nobody else is going to have much of a fleet at this point. So I don't think Italy. Italy has 42 submarines. That's about it. The German fleet, it's either been there are a few small ships left, but most of it has either been scrapped or has been sent to various regions or various victors during the resolution of the war. So the naval rearmament program, in order to eventually create an Atlantic fleet capable of, the first order of business would be to push the Entente out of Africa and Europe, specifically Europe. But that also means we need to deal with their unsinkable aircraft carrier, Ireland, and work potentially with Britain to effect a naval landing. We might need additional Marines. And we need to find ways to get our troops potentially across into the Americas and get and fight the Entente on their continent. So for that, we might need a significant navy, which fortunately we actually have been preparing. So, but we're still very far away from all of that. Even the Sevastopols are somewhat outdated at this point. They've got 305mm main guns. We are building the Tsar Vladimir's, but they're still a year away until they will be completed, and that means we'll have to modernize the navy for a potential control of the Atlantic. For now, we'll concentrate on the Baltic and on the Mediterranean, and that also means that there is not going to be a war against China that we'll be leading, because we will need, at least not for now, because we'll need our troops in Europe. So I think the specialized forces that have been fighting hard battles south of Beijing, which even if we took it, I think would be difficult to hold against the relatively strong Japanese counterattacks. These troops may have to be returned for now, and be brought back, because that is going to take a while, and I don't know for how long it's going to take until Portugal is going to begin the invasion of Congo. So first things first, we need some troops along the European lines. So anyone who's not neutral, Wallonia and Switzerland are the only ones. So we'll have to defend Dunkirk from the French. We'll have to defend Belfort and Metz from the French, and we'll have to defend Turin from the French. So most of the troops will need to return to Europe in order to prepare for this. Now we can leave them there for a little bit longer, but because we do still have the majority of the 6th Army, but some of these are still light tank divisions, and these need to be upgraded. So we'll have to look into, because they're no longer viable at this point. They're just underpowered. So the 35 armor here is really nothing to talk home about. We could potentially try to improve them, but it's really the light tanks that have sort of outlived their usefulness. Now, in that regard, the national research is completely focused on the naval area, but we could rush towards the T-54 series and begin construction of these things. There's also some research to improve the Sviatogors, and we still have a research for the high impact obliterator cannon. Oh, good grief! So. Specifically designed to penetrate extremely thick armor. Okay, we don't actually need this. So this would be a monstrosity to work against enemy land cruisers. But I don't see any of these showing up anywhere. So but the T-54 might be something that we'll need to research, and we do have to modernize radars. And we have to take a very good look at the Air Force, because currently we're mostly focused on relatively small aircraft, which work all right in the densely covered regions of Europe. But we are going to need longer range, medium range bombers specifically that can operate, say, for example, over Ireland. And cover naval regions and all these kind of things. So research needs to happen there as well. Airports need to be reinforced. Radar stations need to be upgraded. Currently, better radar needs to be researched. Although that I'm not sure I don't think we can build that in other nations if it's our research. Not sure. We'll have to figure that out. So lots of work to do. the big question is right now, where are we? We're looking at the naval research. I'm still away from the 1944 weapons, which is where I wanted to be in order to start building a more modern navy. That said, we do have the cruiser and the heavy hull, so we would have to work. With the, unfortunately, with the 380 millimeter cannons. We're not quite making it to the 4.6s. So this would be 22 and 40, and this is 26 and 45. Yeah, this is a notable difference. So I would actually prefer to have these ready before we started building additional shipping. The same goes for the medium cannons. Now we've got the 203 millimeter heavy cruiser guns, and as well as the 155s for the lights. This is 6 and 8. And the that would be 7.5 and 9. So yeah, or 7.5 and 8 for the dual purpose for the 152 mils. So I think we can begin, because currently we've got some dockyards free. We're mostly working on the refits, but we've got some free dockyards. I think we can start potentially with a successor to the Admiral Ushakov. So let's begin with designing ourselves a new cruiser. We definitely need to get the more advanced destroyer hulls. So that all research needs to still be done. And we have potentially the option in the experimental facilities. We don't have that breakthrough currently on naval tech because we're doing a proximity fuse, but there would be. I think there was an option. Can't really see it easy. Do I have a second one? No. I think there was an option for a cruiser submarine. There's also a specific research that we have heard from. That we have heard or seen hints of while we were invading Germany, and that might be relevant to the Nizhny Novgorod nuclear research facility. So that's something that might come into as well. So research needs to happen, and also the current we're building up dockyards for an increased naval program. And then, actually, the plan was to get back to infrastructure within Russia and to the transcontinental railway system for the east that might have to wait. So, okay, we'll begin with the cruiser. So the Ushakovs were pure gun cruisers meant to shred enemy screening forces, not really focused on torpedoes in any way. So we're starting with a modern cruiser hull, and with a significantly better engine, better armor. Did we complete what do we have? The all or nothing scheme. We still got that under works. So that would be that would still be the best. We might have to wait for that actually, because that means, how long is it away? 38 days. Yeah, we'll wait for that, because that is going to give us the improved cruiser armor, and that'll allow us to not having to refit that again. So, okay, we might have to hold back a little bit on the cruiser projects. We have an MIO trait that we need to assign, and I think this was for naval bombers, but I'm not entirely. Yeah, that's for naval bombers. So let's get that done. What do we have? Submarine detection or surface detection, or we can continue. Here. Speed and production efficiency gain. I think 20% production efficiency gain is quite painful if we're changing the templates. Alternatively, we go for the detection here. I might use the surface detection, really improved sights. Let's get that done. All right, so that's out of the way. Construction. We need to fortify the European border, especially the north here. So Dunkirk needs to be fortified, and we'll need to make sure that Where exactly is the border here? Yeah, Wallonia we probably can't. No, so only up to here. And then the region here, I believe, is the border region here should already be relatively well fortified. So let's just make sure that all the border fortifications are up to speed here and are as powerful as they can be. And the same goes for the Italian border, where we are not anticipating Switzerland joining the Entente, but you never know. So border fortifications, and these need to be prioritized. So let's bring these up to speed. That is all the way at the bottom of the line here. So these are all going to go up to the top. And then airports and radar installations are a priority as well. So we can improve the radar in Italy somewhat. We do have quite some capable radar stations. We might build these here, and then I think we've got a reasonably good radar coverage of the region. And then for air bases, we do have an airbase here in the north. We can still improve these. This airbase here definitely needs. I'd prefer it to be slightly off the front lines, so we have. Although this fortification line should hold, so we can probably build up the air bases here. Yeah. So this should do for holding the line. Now we just need to deploy the troops there. Military production. We're almost through with the upgrades after the heavy focus on infantry equipment production. So I think at this point we can close the old conversion lines here. How much do we? Okay, we've still got heaps of that, so we can leave this line running. But we don't have infantry equipment 1 anymore, so we can still we can cancel that because we have a few. We are going to need a few more military factories down here. We do have a good amount of mechanized equipment, but we also need to modernize that, so there's still more to come. And we can probably, how many more factories do we need here? We need 10, 11. So we can probably just pull 10 factories off. Let's make it 15 factories off infantry equipment production. And with that, we actually have a few factories extra, because we are now using the armored support vehicle. So these are going to be needed. We've got a few transport planes in reserves, but we're going to need more of them. And yeah, armored trains we have in abundance. So are trucks, but I'm gonna leave a few factories on that. How much rubber do we have left? Yeah, we've got a good amount left. We have a good amount of close air support aircraft, so that can also eventually be reduced. But we are going to have to restart. These are scout planes. We're going to have to ramp up to refocus on fighter craft potentially. What do we know about the enemy? Let's have a look. Let's have a look and see what we can face. Right now we have very little information. Enemy air force, French is insignificant. Spanish air force as well. There's probably not much here. So Portugal might be a question. No, this is insignificant as well. And the United States of America is then the big one. They have an air force, but it's not going to be enough. So I think we will dominate in the air with relative ease. But we still need to rebalance the shields, the production lines a little bit back towards fighter aircraft. So given that we have a good stockpile of close air support planes, these are taking a lot more damage than fighters generally. We can bring the production of, especially that we also still need upgrades here. I think we can get the production increased here and pull that back to, let's make it 15, and with that, let's make it 14, and we'll throw one more in when we have it. With that, we've got a renewed focus on on fighters. Now we could convert some of the outdated close air support aircraft into fighters, but I think it's generally not necessarily needed. We've got a massive amount of scout aircraft, so I can also think we can still reduce that one further and begin converting some of the older ones. In fact, we might actually get a newer model and just get all the aircraft models updated. We're still building a decent amount of naval bombers, but these will have to be relocated, and we will have to start. Especially the fleet needs to be relocated as well. So with that, we're one rubber short. That is awkward. Can we trade? Well, the Polish Republic has a bit of rubber, so we can trade some of their rubber, but most of it is in the hand of Germany East Asia. We're also trading for too much tungsten, so we might remove that from the Norwegians. That should do the trick. Okay, so troops deployment. The divisions we currently have are going to have to hold the lines. So we will have doesn't really matter which way around. We'll set Casagrandi's troops into the main defensive line here against France. We will recall Pepelayev from East Asia, and we will send him to, I believe we will send him probably to Italy, because I would like the mountain divisions to be more concentrated as sort of special forces. We've got the 12th Army, which is also currently moving over for a potential invasion of Japan, which needs to be recalled and brought back to Europe. And they will be a situational force that will be deployed wherever enemy tank attacks are likely. Alternatively, we could just deploy them in the north, but they've got a soft attack of 306. Let's compare that quickly, just to see. So that's 360, and the anti-tank divisions have 306 soft attacks. So it's somewhat less, but still very capable. So we could also use these troops to hold Dunkirk for now. So let's do that. So we'll deploy them in the north here. The paratroopers, who were designed to potentially land behind enemy lines. Am I going to bring them back to Europe? We'll bring them back to Europe as well. So we'll need to have them available. We'll bring them back to Moscow for starters. We need to have them available for potential operations. So that line here gets removed. These troops are on the move. And we have, we've got the expeditionary troops returning. They would go back to the 5th Army. Now, 5th Army is an interesting one because the 5th Army is currently deployed mostly to Nigeria. And as such would be potentially a force that we could deploy along the lines in Congo. But I will also need them in Europe, especially in Italy. So I would love to have. I might bring the fifth over to Italy for starters. So they will return to the. That was the wrong army. They go back there. That was the 5th Army. Yeah, 5th Army goes back here, and we will return. We will bring them into the lines here for a potential deployment against the French mountain regions. So fighting their way through, probably relatively centralized. That's where we would bring the 5th Army troops under Augen-Sternberg. And then we'll have to start planning offensive lines here as well, which leaves the question of Africa, because because the do we have anything that's currently not assigned anywhere? Not really. It's like everything is at the front lines. So let's have a look at the division templates and see if we can come up with something that has extremely low supply use. So like the guards divisions have a supply use of 1.45, which is obviously not great. I think the mountain divisions were actually 1.15, is relatively low. And the regular infantry division was 1.33. So the mountain divisions were actually relatively good due to their relatively low reliance on tanks. And they only have artillery and things. So, but it is a 30 combat width division. So we might be able to just take one of our infantry divisions. I would be keen to have something that's moving a little faster. So we might actually even try to do a custom cavalry division. What's the cavalry's capability in forests, however? In the jungle, we get some debuffs, but all of this can be countered. Nothing's for forests. We get that's all from the recon. So if we take that out, then naturally we get an attack debuff in forest, hills, and in the jungle, which is not ideal because that's where we mostly be fighting. So regular infantry would be slower, but would have better terrain modifiers. So I think we might do a mix of. That said, I think cavalry might actually be reasonably interesting to bring in. Now, the next question is supply use. So each of these uses 0.06 supply, whereas if we're looking at an infantry battalion, it's the same thing. So cavalry battalion is using the same supply as an infantry battalion, but is faster, noticeably, with 7.3 kilometers. So I think we have a case here for designing a cavalry division, extremely low supply use cavalry division, that is capable of operating within the forests and specifically within the plains against Portugal and Central Africa. And that might be, despite the fact that they'll be a little bit lower on firepower, but we can make some modifications there. And I think that'll be part of an Africa Corps of some sorts that we can deploy against the Portuguese region, together with some of the mountain divisions. So, if we for that we probably want to train up a few more mountaineers, and we can. Okay, closest would probably be deployment would be about here-ish. We can get another 5 mountain divisions. That's probably let's make it 4. And then we're going to duplicate the cavalry division. And I'm going to have to find a good name for that. But what I'm thinking is in fact, motorized infantry might be interesting as well. Not mechanized, because they use more supply, armored cars as well. But motorized would be using about the same amount of supply as cavalry does. So maybe we'll make, instead of a cavalry division, we'll make a motorized division, simply using trucks. Let me design one, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, in the end, the problem is are the supply lines in Congo, because there is basically one supply hub at Leopoldville and one extremely exposed supply hub near the Portuguese border. And the problem with trucks is that they don't work very well when they don't have fuel, whereas horses can do this a lot better. So we have the African division, an 18 combat with cavalry division. We might actually let's see, if we add one more, it'll be 20. Yeah, we'll make it a 20 with cavalry division, which only has support artillery. It's very minimalistic. Support artillery, we put the logistics company in, which I need to research more in order to further drop down the supply use. We've got regular engineers, and we've got the army scouts, which offer the best bonuses. So this is a special ranger division, and they will mostly be fighting in forests where they have a 20% movement bonus and a 25% defense bonus, and in the jungle where they have that as well, although they are suffering somewhat from attack in the area. But they are reasonably quick and should be able to use maneuver warfare in the wide open areas of Africa quite successfully. So this division we are going to begin training up a few of, and they will be sent to Africa once trained. So we've got 4 here. So I'm almost thinking of doing about 20 divisions of these. And then we've got an African field army with 4 mountaineer special divisions, 20 rapidly moving cavalry divisions, and they will be able to hopefully operate within the area. And we might further specialize this down if need be. So for example, if we have to fight, we might have to fight enemy tanks actually. So maybe we'll do a specialized version of this as an anti-tank force as well. Right, for anti-tank purposes, we'll have a specialized division again designed for minimum supply use, and they will actually operate with. We might even still be able to reduce that further. Yeah, we can still get that down further if we are, but that is reducing the piercing slightly. Yeah, we'll leave them with purely for anti-tank purposes. They don't actually have artillery, and they will be. We'll make a few specialized ones. So we'll make probably 4 of these, and then we'll reduce the cavalry somewhat. There we go. So now we have a specialized African force, mainly built around a very low supply cavalry force. Not this one. This one. 0.49 supply. The reason I'm not putting line artillery in here, can I still actually put the field hospital? It's marginal. Yeah, I'll put the field hospital still as well. It's marginal, 0.52. So the reason I'm not putting line artillery in is because I would have to be motorized, which then blows the supply out again. So because with the infantry it doesn't matter because we can just use regular drone artillery, but with a fast division we need to watch our speed. So these are not going to be bringing along line artillery. Okay, so these divisions will all be newly trained. Then we are going to need potentially, we're going to need to look at what we do with the tanks. I am keen, but this might be still out of the ways. I'm keen to get into the modern tanks. So what are we going to do with the 6th Army in the meantime? This is the problem being here that most of about half of them are light tanks, which are not particularly capable. We might actually. What's the supply use on these? 1 point. It's not that bad, but the piercing is relatively low, and the armor doesn't stand up. So no, they're not particularly useful anymore at this point. So we might change them into heavy tank divisions for starters, but that would somewhat overweight our European armies as well. But in order for a concentrated assault into France, that might be useful. That said, France actually, they do have a fair amount of infantry divisions now. So, we are going to have the battle in France is going to be significant. So we are going to have to field a bit more than half an army group here. So we are going to need significant forces. Ideally, I'd be committing the light tanks into converting them into more modern tank divisions. So what we might do is actually leave them behind for the time being, and bring the heavy tank divisions. We bring the ones from China back because they are needed, and we will put them into the field on the main line here, basically. So. They would be getting ready for attacks along the fortification line. How well is this fortified? Let's see. Level 2 fortifications. It's not impenetrable by any means whatsoever. We could, but we can deploy some tank forces in Flanders. I think the fortification lines in Flanders are reasonably. No, actually, they are similar. Yeah, they're relatively similar. So we can use the tanks to break through the fortifications in the open fields and bring the 14th Army for special operations against fortified positions here. And then once we're broken through in the center, the tanks can roam free into the area. So we're going to get the tanks as well as the available mechanized infantry, and for now deploy them a little bit in the rear until the situation is a little clearer. And yes, we will have to we'll leave the light tanks for now as a contingency measure in Ukraine, because we also still have. Are we still running? No, we're not running any. We're not running any more anti-partisan operations at this point. So this is going to. They're not necessarily needed there. Well, we'll leave them there for contingency for now until they can be upgraded. And we are going to need a noticeable amount of. We're going to need another field army potentially. And I am thinking of just training up additional. Where are they? Let me just review them. The motorized guards divisions, yeah, because these, while they're slow due to the self-propels, they are relatively sturdy. So if we can train up effectively we'll train them in Ukraine. We'll train up another field army of these things. And that'll just become the new face of the more modernized Russian army. We should be still, we're a bit short on heavy self-propelled artillery, so that might still be. Where are we? We are probably having a good. We tend to lose a lot of the flame tanks, so we can. We will probably need to have a bit more on the SPs. So we're going to get another 10 factories onto this. We have 189 of the super heavies, of the super heavy howitzers. We create one a day basically. So we may be able to reduce that slightly, but other than that, we can pull a little bit back from the mechanized equipment production, because I think we're pretty good here. So we'll pull that back. That goes into the self-propels. There we go. All right. So that'll be training up, and with that we are bringing 2 new field armies online, which is going to get us up to 200, which isn't an awful lot. So we might have to create a separate force for operations in the east. For that, I am thinking. So Marines currently looking like. Yeah, we can train up. We can add a few more Marine divisions. How many more? Let's make it like 6 extra, and then so that this can go to the east, and then we can just train up some regular guards divisions, which are still viable. They're also using the super heavies actually. This was the. Did I change that out? I changed that out apparently. So where everyone's using the super heavy, I might actually train a few more divisions for the just so we have additional capabilities for taking on fortifications, and then I think we'll just need a few. We'll see how short we're going to get on the super heavy howitzers. Then we might train up a second field army here to deal with the Asian situation once that comes to pass. So these are lower priority, so they're all going to get downgraded, whereas the other ones are more more important. Specifically, I think the African divisions are top priority at this point. Yeah, like this. Okay, so they should be. But I think we've got the stockpiles, honestly, for all of this. So it shouldn't be too bad. All right. Next up, we need to reorganize the Air Force. Currently, we're concentrated in the Asian theater, and we'll remain here because this is relatively quick to be moved, and we still have some forces in in Russia itself. So we can begin forward deploying these towards where we are still building up air bases as well. So we'll begin forward deploying these forces to the European air bases. We've got 8 fighter wings here. They can move towards Rotterdam, and I think we've got some scout planes. They can begin operations over France actually already immediately. And we might bring up a few more scout wings, and I've got 4 close air support wings. No, these are over. Why are these here? They should be in. Here. Yeah. So we have actually deployed all close air support wings over, or most of them over in Asia, and that'll just leave us with. We got these 2. These are naval bombers actually. Okay, so they need deployments as well towards the coastline. We'll be building up a few more air wings to bolster these forces here, and we're building up the airports as well. So we'll leave the majority of the air force in Asia at this point in order to get a bit of support for the war as long as we're still engaged here. But I think we will have to start bringing the troops back, unfortunately, soon. Not necessarily yet, but soon. We'll try another assault towards Beijing, but we'll have to bring the troops back soon in order to bolster the European deployment here. And lastly, that brings us to the Navy, where this fleet here, I think, is going to redeploy towards the Mediterranean. So let's bring them somewhat to the rear, and we'll stop operations here, and we'll transfer them to the naval base. I think what are their current assigned areas of operations? None. It just says active in 2 regions. So it should actually be. I said because I have taken the mission off. Oh, that's why. Yeah. So can we not be active in Sea of Japan? We cannot. Okay, I might have to restart the game. I've seen this before. This happens quite a bit. At some point, you cannot reassign naval areas anymore. But yeah, they'll be rezoned to the brought to the Mediterranean, and the Northern Fleet will be brought out into the North Sea. All right, that took some doing, but we're bringing the Pacific Fleet over into the Mediterranean. They will be joined with the Black Sea Fleet, and the Baltic Fleet is going to operate along the northern coast, the Channel and the North Sea. And with that, we should have at least a little bit of a contain against any kind of French actions behind lines, as well as North African invasion actions against our relatively weak new democratic Europe. All right, so with all of that out of the way, I've probably got enough for just to do a few doctrines. This is carriers. I think everything here is carriers. This is it's mostly carriers. So it's not really worth doing much here until we actually have carriers. Air doctrine's complete. Special forces, we do have the Marines, which can, but I do want to save up the naval experience for other things, and land doctrine is complete as well. So we are We are complete doctrinally. We're still using the refit yards to get the refits out of the way, but then we can change that. And I think we're going to become more aggressive, to be honest, in the future. So let's switch that over. And we're still sitting on night fighting, which is correct. The aircrew service, I think... do we need anything here? This is research speed, training experience. Yeah, we can switch that back to effective training programs, because we're going to be training up a few more air wings, and then that'll be that. All right. So we have the. Do we actually have any of the Sviatogor? No. What we can do, we can take a few of the of Stefan's veritable old light tank divisions, and that's probably going to be the last thing to do. So let's take the first, the second, and the third, and we're going to convert these into, they will get Sviatogors. So let's do that. There we go. So these once they are reinforced, once the things are there, are going to be bringing along the land cruisers for action in France. And that means that these three are actually going to be going north towards Flanders, and from there will have their own forward deployments. All right, so significant setup, change of tack, and building of a more modern Russian army for a potential conflict with the Entente, and we'll still be fighting a little bit in China, and we will still see if we can manage to push towards Beijing once more. The problem here mainly is, well, complete lack of supply at this point. So might delete that and bring these divisions back here for now. This is 9th Army, this is 14th. Okay, we'll bring these back here for now, just to defend, just to hold the line. And we will extend the front line here to make our way. There we go. So we'll try to refuel and rearm as much as possible, and try again. We've got where's the? We should have another. Oh, it's over here. Okay, this needs to go there. Yeah, we'll try for another assault towards Beijing. Alternatively, what we can do actually is we can try to concentrate the tank forces in the east and see if we can take Tianjin, because that'll be immediate supply and we don't have to do the further push. We're not exposed to counterattacks out of Beijing. So that might actually be the better idea. So in that case, I'm going to pull the mechanized infantry out of this for now. I'm going to bring them back to the rear, and I can't do that for some reason. So let's try again. Nope, I can't. So, okay, in that case, we'll split the front lines. We'll leave the mechanized infantry in the north here to defend, and for the potential counter. And we'll try to do a tank attack into Tianjin, and then from there a concentrated attack towards Beijing. So for that, we're going to need all three tank divisions getting their own front line here, and their task is to effectively take Tianjin and then push towards Beijing, whereas the other two are going to remain in this sector and are going to operate from here. So we'll move these two tank divisions over there. We'll pull back the special forces for now, because we don't need them just yet, and we will see if we can force the river crossing here into Tianjin with the tank divisions, especially given the air situation. I think we've been going for a while, but it's been a complete planning episode, so let's see if we can. Let's see if we can still see a little bit of action at least. We've completely dealt with the enemy fighters, but the support aircraft are still. We've already shot down about 900 of them, so we should be getting rid of the last remnants of these relatively soon as well. And obviously the counterattacks from the north are consistent and annoying, but we should be able to get the tanks over eventually while they are reorganizing. Meanwhile, we have some elections in Warsaw. Let's see what happened over here. First, elections in Warsaw. The reborn Polish state under Russian protection has had its first free elections. While the overall turnout was low, a common theme across Europe that simply wants to rebuild, the election remained competitive. This year it ended in a victory for the PSL. The new Polish political scene is largely a consequence of the shifting attitudes and decisions made during the Great Patriotic War. When the war kicked off, it was portrayed by the government as a defense of European civilization against the Russo-Asiatic menace, threatening to conquer Poland and erase its identity once again. With some reservations, many moderates both backed the war effort. This was not to last. Russian forces had turned the tide of battle, and once the war had reached Polish territory, things had suddenly become much more controversial. In fact, many increasingly saw Russia not as an invader, but as a potential ally. Would it not be better, after all, to align with a democratic Russia that will guarantee Polish territorial integrity instead of an authoritarian German monarch? As the kingdom crumbled to Russian forces, the Provisional Republic of Poland was declared in the occupation zone. Once only those who were more loyal to Berlin saw Warsaw but then Warsaw did not defect. Polish politicians largely recognized that their state's future was to lie with Russia. Okay. For some, however, this was an unexpected turn of events. The Polish National Committee, residing in Moscow, had already been planning to form a government in the Russian occupation zone. However, Russia never recognized the National Committee, even during the war against the German hegemon, and decided to keep its options open. Yes, we do want to have the people to have a say, not some form of influence organization in exile taking over afterwards. In the end, it seemed to bear fruit. The Polish far right proved incapable of beginning a general uprising, and Moscow was quick to recognize the Liberal Republic, believing that it would not only give more legitimacy and popular support, but be a more reliable partner to Moscow. As such, the ties built up between the Russians and Polish nationalists have completely broken down. Of course, this is a preferable state of affairs. While the Polish center-right has largely accepted Russian partnership as a preferable alternative to socialism, the far right has never obscured their distaste for the Russian civilization, seeing it as bastardization of Slavic culture. Polish and Russian state media refer to the new Russo-Polish relationship as the turning of a new leaf. Yes, Russia was unmistakably the land of Tsarist autocracy before, one that tried to erase Poland entirely, but the Russia of today is a liberator who has brought the values of the Great February Revolution to the Poles. It may be hard to believe, but Russia and Poland may just become friends for a long time, united for democracy. Cheers to our Polish friends. Yes, a free Polish... Did I not create... Galicia here? It might have done a reunification very quickly. So that's fine. As long as the people vote for what they want, then I'm all for it. So we have a free Poland. Hooray! And here we are still trying to move to get our tanks moved over and prepare for an assault. We are going to have to start planning that again. The consistent small-scale counterattacks from the north are preventing any kind of significant troop movements in the area, and the sheer number of Chinese divisions here on the lines now isn't making things any easier. I might actually pull the mechanized divisions off completely, because that's so many divisions here that we're struggling to get supply into this area. Okay, a little bit more of a spirited assault now in the north, but they will suffer from massive air attacks. Did I trade out? Yeah, I've got a lot of close air support wings in here now. I don't think I have any. No, I don't have any more available at this point. So I might actually bring this one to the northern airbase. No, this is already full. We'll bring one. We'll bring one fighter. Hang on, why are these all standing by? Oh no, these are not standing by. It's these ones. We'll bring one. We'll take one fighter wing out, and bring this close air support wing north, because that'll be more efficient in terms of things. Okay, the Zambezia volunteers have returned, but not something we need to currently worry about. It's more, they still managed to maintain about 700 close air support aircraft in the area, despite, but yeah, they're not getting anywhere. We've lost most of our close air support to AA, but the enemy's lost significantly more. So now that we've got the tank divisions here, they do need to find a way to begin planning this out. I'm going to run a staff office plan here to speed up the process a little bit, but unfortunately they're coming under consistent counterattacks, which isn't helping in terms of organization, because we are going to have to defend ourselves here constantly, and that is less than ideal. We've got a few free military factories. We can possibly bump this back up to 20. Yeah, let's do that. All right. Now that we had some additional free factories. So the question becomes now, and I think I actually might do this, because these are never going to regain their organization due to the well, they're currently in combat, but due to the terrifyingly bad supply situation. So we will. I think I'll pull these back temporarily, more into the rear. And we'll fall these back, and we'll pull back a bit into the rear. See if that reduces the supply load here that we're facing in the Tianjin front. Now, obviously, counterattacks would be good, but for that I need these tank divisions to be actually operational. And right now they are just consistently, they're just under constant attacks from multiple directions and having to defend themselves, which makes recovery relatively difficult. And it also makes actually planning an attack relatively difficult. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. It looks like the assaults have abated, and supply status is bad, which is causing attritional problems as well. But my main concern is that we get the organization back together. All right, we've got. I did say I was going to do the light cruiser guns first. I don't need the heavy cruiser guns, so I can skip that one actually. So we'll do these and get that out of the way. And we do again have some free military factories. So we've got a significantly reduced stockpile of the mechanized equipment. So I might throw the additional military factories into there for now. Okay, we're pulling back the mechanized divisions here, and we are waiting for the tank divisions to actually begin some plan preparations. Unfortunately, they get consistently interrupted, but to begin some plan preparations, and then to launch the assault on Tianjin once the organization has recovered. Alternatively, I don't want to pull them back from the front lines, because then they're not preparing the plans either. And but even as it stands, I think we're not getting anywhere under the constant assaults here. So we might have to go into this without planning bonus, but we'll see how it goes. No, I will decline any requests from Canada, because Canada is potentially hostile towards us. And yeah, that situation is it's going to be a difficult. We're slowly at least grinding down the enemy support aircraft. We get them down to 650, and they're mostly covered by our fighters. So they're not capable of doing any kind of offensive operations. I'm gonna try and see if we can launch an assault as soon as these costly counterattacks have been repelled, and the support aircraft are certainly doing a number on them here, simply because all of these attacks, as long as they last, it shortens the amount of the attack, and it is very costly on their side. So every time they launch these attacks, they lose thousands of men. But regardless, the Japanese are running effectively headfirst into our troops here, and I don't think we're ever going to get the plan prepared, and we might not even be able to get the organization up here. But we'll give it a bit of time and see if we can manage to get to a point where this becomes possible to launch a counterattack. All right. The advanced heavy battery is the other one that I need urgently in order to begin the construction of more advanced heavy ships. Okay, supply situation is getting slightly better, but I'm gonna give it a bit of time, see if we can recover a bit more organization, and then we'll try to launch an assault. Meanwhile, the Treaty of Mexico has been signed. Mexico has totally surrendered to the United States of America, and America is now occupying most of Central America, Yucatan. It looks like Canada has in the ensuing peace treaty handed that over to the United States as well. So the Entente aggression continues unabated, and we're not going to get any more organization here or any planning done. So we will launch an assault and see if it works. Let's put it that way. Obviously, across the river is not ideal. So, but the Marines would be struggling even more. We will see how much we're basically relying on the staying power of the armored forces and on giving our aircraft an opportunity to affect the enemy substantially enough and to bomb them out of their positions so that the tanks can make the push into Tianjin, where we would be able to take supply. Now, soft attack is unfortunately reduced to the river crossing and significantly also due to the supply situation. Enemy counterattacks are not helping, but we will see if the tank divisions can outlast the defenders, and we'll just have to keep an eye on their reserves, because we will have to. The key here is to reduce their reserves, faster than they can replenish them, and hopefully for that the dive bombers are going to do sufficient damage. But the consistent counterattacks from the north are not helping in that, because that's always diverting valuable firepower. They're refilling the reserves, I think, faster than we can get them out. Demobilization has completed, which this actually gets us back to limited conscription. So we will have to see. We'll have to see if we have to change that. We might have to change that again. Of course, we'll try to work with. We'll try to work with limited conscription here. I think we have enough manpower that we don't need the extensive conscription. That is also going to speed up the creation of the new forces. But in the meantime, let's see if we still have a few things that I don't think any of these is particularly important. Do we have anything towards nuclear research? That would be that would be this branch. Okay, so it's the Air Force branch. We'll do the Kronstadt project because we don't have anything that's absolutely important right now. Or we can do the Naval Guards Infantry, actually. That gives us some research bonuses. So let's do that. Naval Guards Infantry on the way. We have a few potential things we can do. We don't need Raleigh public support. What else do we have? That's recruitment. We don't need the recruitment of agents, and the Belarusian situation where we could be rebuilding. But I think that can wait. For now, we'll bank some political power in case we need to make some rapid changes. Right. So what I'm more interested in is to see if we can manage to deflect these consistent counterattacks from the north here, which are diverting our power, and we can manage to quickly enough push the enemy divisions before they can reinforce their front lines. Unfortunately, the counterattacks are part of the problem really here. What we can do is we can try to launch an unplanned supporting offensive, and we'll have to go this way. We'll launch an unplanned supporting offensive in the north to prevent them from running these counterattacks. So we'll stop the attacks here for now. We'll focus on the defense, and we'll bring the mechanized troops in, and we'll try a surprise offensive in the north to divert these forces that keep trying to push against the tanks here, and we'll see if we can deal with them. All right. I think one of the things now that I can actually, we need to get the light ships also underway. So now this is still going to be naval research. I was thinking that I could divert some onto tank research, but no, it's going to be naval research for now. All right, we'll bring the mechanized divisions in and see if they can run a counterattack such that we can try again to force Tianjin. Another ace pilot, but I think the tank divisions here are getting significantly exhausted. Okay, since we're not getting the planning done anyway, what we'll do is we'll remove the front lines and we'll fall back the tank divisions to recover. We'll let the infantry hold the lines here, and then we will, once the tank divisions have refueled and rearmed, because we're not going to be able to plan an offensive anyway, that's when we will begin a surprise assault across the two lines, where the mechanized divisions are going to attack in the north, while for a diversionary attack, while the tank divisions are going to be hitting Tianjin as the main assault. So let's do that. We'll be falling back slightly towards the rear, and then we should actually have supply. The mechanized troops are decent in terms of we should be okay in terms of supply here in the rear lines. So let's get these divisions refueled, rearmed, and then we will launch an unplanned full-on attack against enemy lines. Unfortunately, in the meantime, the Japanese have taken the forest northeast of Baoding, which is also under heavy assaults here, where our troops are trying valiantly to hold the city. So I think it's relatively clear that without our support, they are going to be pushed back relatively. The Chinese are going to be pushed back relatively quickly by the superior Japanese forces. So for now, we'll launch an assault. The air situation is they are maintaining 700 support planes, no matter how many of them we shoot down. But we have enough fighters to keep the air clear. So for now, we'll send the 37th and 51st in to retake the forest position, and then they will be pushing for the counterattack north to pin enemy troops in place, while the tanks are getting ready for an assault towards Tianjin. Let's see if we can actually manage to push the enemy out of here with superior firepower. I believe that we can. There we go. That should have done the trick. Of course, before we can get there, they're reinforcing, but it's small amounts of reinforcements. So we'll try to retake that and then launch the tank assault into Tianjin and see if we can take the position. We can't do naval invasions because we're not officially at war with Japan. But I think that we'll do that action next episode. So the last item we'll look at is February 1917, etched in history as the downfall of the eternal Tsarist regime. Like a storm at sea, the revolution's ripples quickly reached the Jewish sphere, giving rise to myriad political forces eager to address the woes of Jews, now under new rulers in the so-called Oststaaten. Since then, Jewish engagement in civil life has dramatically increased, with political parties catering to the Jewish minority emerging as a significant force in Eastern Europe. Those accustomed to the new status quo were unprepared for another February to sweep across Eastern Europe. In fact, this is actually more important here-ish. Yet, another dramatic shift in 2.5 decades seemed inconceivable, but with the Russian victory over Germany, it is now a reality. Despite numerous reports of violence by the Russian army against Jews during the conflict, the government swiftly reaffirmed its commitment to minority rights and religious freedom, and eventually the storm passed. The return of peace brings another question: where to from here? Among the first to act was the liberal Ukrainian Jewish Democratic Party, now known simply as the Jewish Democratic Party, which united with the Jewish Democratic Union from Minsk to reaffirm their commitment to the Russian Empire. Despite their support primarily coming from Jews in the liberated territories, Jews in Petrograd and Moscow seem largely disinterested. In practice, these Jewish parties shape up to be tertiary players in Russian politics, often allied with the Cadets. So we have a multi-ethnic republic, and yes, there's not going to be any persecution of Jewish people in Europe, at least as long as the Russian Empire has anything to say about it. So Portugal keeps justifying, or Portugal keeps sending threatening missives. We have at least we have some training. But these troops are not going to be ready until April, fully trained. So I'm almost considering of deploying them to Congo anyway, in the meantime, and then have them train in the field. That might not be a terrible idea. And at least they'll be on site. And we are also, so that might be the first battlefield against the Entente. We've got the troops ready in Europe for confrontation with France. Together with allied forces, and the navy is coming into place. We have completed repairs of the fleet in the north, and we have they're probably still underway. Actually, we have them here already. So we've got the Mediterranean fleet, currently only having 1 heavy cruiser, 2 light cruisers, and 37 destroyers. But additional ships are going to come in once the refits are completed, and they will be challenging the enemy in the Mediterranean. All of that to come in a future episode. And I thought this campaign was winding down with the war to push Japan out of China. But apparently we're looking at the looming Third Weltkrieg.